and welcome to the 7 Sage LSAT podcast, coming to you for the second week in a row in video format. So if you're at home listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever fine podcasts are delivered, just know you now have the option to go to youtube.com, look up 7 Sage, and we're posting them there as well. So you can watch us, you can listen to us, you can do both, you can switch back and forth. It's an exciting time to be a 7 Sage LSAT podcast consumer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm Alex. And I'm joined by two of my two friends, one of whom you probably already know from the podcast. Bailey, do you want to introduce yourself?
True. I'm Bailey. What's up? Hi.
And then we have a very special guest and friend, 7 Sage live class instructor, 7 Sage LSAT tutor, and former 7 Sage student, Nicole.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. I feel very honored. True friendship, Alex and Bailey.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have my 5 seconds of fame. I'm ready. This is going to be a great time.
Well, 5 seconds are up. So bye.
So time to go.
It's going to keep rolling.
Yeah. No. We'll try and make it a little bit longer than that. Well, we're very pleased to have you here. We'll start out just by kind of checking in, hearing how everyone's doing, how their week's going. We've got some new classes on the schedule. Bailey, you have a new class today on the live class schedule. Are you excited?
Oh, I'm excited. You already know I'm excited. It's RC Gossip Hour. We're going to read a terribly boring reading comprehension passage like it's crazy hot gossip. The craziest, hottest tea that's ever just spilled. It's kind of fun. It's what goes on in my brain when I try to make myself understand these passages. So it's like a technique that we're sharing, and potentially it's going to make RC a little bit better. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a specific technique that you utilize to, people get understandably bored, distracted, confused by RC passages. So the gossip technique, just treat it as if it's hot goss, and that's how you're going to run this class.
You're supposed to say tea, Alex. It's tea.
Hot goss and tea. Any of the above.
It can be.
I guess it's any of the above. But
I wrote the description, and I do say tea in the description, so it's not that I don't know what tea is.
As long as we mention it at least once, totally good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
agreed.
I believe the last sentence is spilling the tea on RC.
Perfect.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good job.
Really good sentence. Mic drop.
Literally mic drop.
Can't drop it. It's on a suspended. Anyways, Nicole, how about you? Any do you have any new classes this week? You're going to be teaching
Well, I have
passages.
a new class, something new for me, but not new for 7 Sages. I'm taking over Alex's comparative passages class, which I'm actually really excited. It's like a full circle moment because throwback almost a year ago when I was listening to the 7 Sage podcast, I was mind blown when there was an episode on comparative passages. It was this episode where Henry and Asta were like arguing about what is the best technique for comparative passages. Mind was blown. I was driving home. I was like, whoa, I have to try this immediately. Changed the entire trajectory of my studying. So now, coming full circle, I'm going to be teaching the class, showing everybody else the same technique that blew my mind several months back. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great time.
The comparative technique that we use at 7 Sage, it really is the closest thing to just like an absolute hack that I think is available on the LSAT. Everyone's looking for like quick tricks, hacks, to really sort of change the game. And we have those. We know we can help you, but the one that's just immediately sort of a game changer is the way that we do comparatives, which quick rundown, read passage A, answer all the questions about passage A, address questions that are about A and B, and eliminate answers that are wrong just based on your reading of A. Then go back, read B, finish up the question set. You got to look it up in the core curriculum, come to a comparative class to get it in full, but that's the basic process. It really is just an absolute game changer. The questions are just not that hard when you do it that way, when it's fresh in your mind.
It's because the LSAT writers, they want you to read so many things that you have all this information lost inside your mind. Yeah. But we have surpassed the LSAT writers, and now we do our pro hack, and we can get past that.
You can just go around, Absolutely. I'm going to be teaching a class called the LR Ladder for the second time this week. As
Exciting.
a group, we the class collaborates. If more than 50% of the class gets the answer correct to a question, we move up in difficulty, trying to make it up to 5.
Nice.
Very exciting. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Fun. Wait, did you guys make it up to 5
No,
stars?
almost 4 stars. We hung out at 4 stars last week.
Next time.
This week-
Next time.
This
But
week,
a win is a
I
win.
believe it. Redemption.
a win is a win.
Yes.
You end every class
True. A
having
win
won.
is a win. Yeah.
Having
No,
won.
regardless.
I wish that's how people felt in 10 questions or die, because for anybody listening, the class where we try to get through
true.
10 questions in the span of an hour, I'm always telling everybody, guys, if we get through 8 or 9, at least a win is a win. And everyone's like, no, we died today, guys. Positive vibes, okay? But in the Christmas happy spirit, at least we got through almost 10.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely.
That's
Almost
so true.
is
That's
better
a
than
fun
none.
class. That one's like a race against the clock. I don't know if I've gotten 10. Alex brags about how he gets like 12 questions
12.
done in that class, but
I
don't
got
know how
10
he
like
does it.
2 weeks ago, and that was like the proudest I felt in a while. So, but yesterday
hard.
I got 8. So you win some, you lose some. But
That's all
every
right.
win is a win, so it's okay.
Every class is a win because you leave the class having learned something about the LSAT.
such a good point.
And
Such a good point.
what's better than that? Cool. Well, we decided to bring Nicole on to just discuss. Nicole, tell us a little bit about your personal LSAT journey. You, where did you start? Where did you end up? And what got you there?
Good question. So the first diagnostic I ever took, I took it on 7 Sage. Everything I've ever done in terms of the LSAT was always exclusively on 7 Sage, which is why it's nice to be here, continuing to rep 7 Sage. My first diagnostic was at a 154. That was back in the days of logic games, where I think half the reason I had that score was because I just didn't finish like 2 out of the 4 logic games, period. And that started my study journey. And then I ended up spending about 4 or 5 months going through the curriculum, practicing my drills, trying to find ways, hacks, as Alex says, mind-blowing hacks in the podcast. And I ended up getting a 173 a couple months later, and I was really happy about that. And now here I am.
Nice. That's awesome. And so you were a 7 Sage user from beginning to end, it sounds like. Nice. What worked in particular for you? I mean, if you could go back and thinking about, if you could go back and give yourself advice, starting from scratch, what's the best piece of advice you could give to someone who is just starting their
That's a
studies?
good question. I hate to be super cliche because I think we say this all the time in live classes, but I would just recommend for everybody to go through the curriculum, or at least as much of the curriculum as they feel like is helping them tackle the questions. Because I know a lot of us out there, we start by, okay, I'm just going to tackle a couple sections. I don't need the curriculum yet. I'm just going to see what I can do without it. And sometimes those questions become like 3 times more time consuming when you don't have like those underlying theoretical concepts nailed down, if that makes sense. Because then when you go through the curriculum, for example, on conditionals, and JY gives his fantastic explanation on how to diagram, how to fill in sufficient assumptions, how to, predict must be trues. And then the time you spent on any conditional question is literally cut in half, maybe even thirds. So having that conceptual understanding from the curriculum just takes your studying from like here to here. It's so beneficial. And that's what I would preach to everybody on my soapbox is to at least get through all those core concepts in the foundational curriculum, that they're so helpful.
Totally.
That's good.
Bailey,
Wait, quick
thoughts on that?
question. Did you do that first? Like, was that your actual first step? Did we already say this? Because I'm jealous, basically. Like, I'm proud of
did.
you. That's awesome.
I
Okay,
did,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
I went through the entire curriculum before I did any drills. I mean, I kind of would, so at the time, I think still the curriculum is structured where there's like 1 question type at a time that JY covers. And I would like cover the curriculum on like main point and most strongly supported, for example. Then I would spend 3 or 4 days only drilling those questions. Then I would go to the next one. Point out issue, disagree. I would cover the curriculum. Then like 3 to 4 days, I would drill like 5 questions every day. And then as I covered more and more question types, I would start mixing them together. So when I'm finished with like point at issue, most strongly supported, must be true, etc., then I would drill like a mix of 12 questions every day that has all of that mixed. And I just keep building until I'm ready to mix all the LR question types together, for example.
Nice. Oh, I so wish I could go back and tell past Bailey to do that exact same thing. I was just like, oh my God, can I please cut all the corners that I want, that I possibly can, and not do any of this curriculum stuff? And it just left me back where I started like a year later. So good job. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, the curriculum was super beneficial. That like really was the one thing that I feel like helped me so much get from point A to point B.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's nice. This is like a very process or based test. And listen, people try and sort of reinvent the wheel. There's just an entire curriculum that tells you everything you need to know. I know that when I was studying, I was like, yeah, but do I actually need to know all of this? That was sort of my, arrogant perspective on it. Bailey, you agree? Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was like, I'm smart. I could do this without all that, curriculum crap. But no, I had no idea what I was doing. I just didn't have the concepts to make sense of these tough things.
Yeah. First of all, like there's like so much that you almost certainly don't know. Second of all, even if you do know it, like you're gonna want to revisit it. Like even if you do, I know there are some people who come into this test knowing conditional logic. That was not me. I did not know conditional logic. Some people do.
Me neither.
What's the worst thing? What's the worst thing that comes from you revisiting conditional logic? Like
such a good point.
Okay,
like,
so you're better at it.
Yeah.
Right. These concepts, even the ones that you're familiar with, like are complicated. And to do well on this test, they have to become automatic. So don't be like me. Don't be like Bailey. Be like Nicole,
That's a really good
at least with respect to the curriculum. Be like Nicole.
Well, yeah. And eventually I did go from start to finish through it. But not that wasn't my first instinct. Well, now you're a live class instructor. How have your own studies like informed what you do as a live class instructor, Nicole?
Ooh, interesting. One thing that I kind of picked up on while I was studying is kind of what you mentioned, that this test is not about intelligence or your worth or how much outside information you have. It's really just like a game. Like you just have to understand the rules of the game, almost like a logic game in and of itself. And as I was studying, it kind of started clicking for me. Like I just have to look for cookie cutter patterns. Like all of these different LR types, yeah, they're different, but a lot of things intersect. And once you start seeing the patterns and remembering those rules of the game, things go by a little easier. So the way I try to structure my classes is not so much around very specific questions or very specific things you might see every once in a while in an LR set, more like the bigger picture. Like here are the patterns. I'm going to give you like 12 questions that all follow this super similar cookie cutter pattern. And over the course of this hour and a half, you're going to see that you can follow the same process for all 12 of these questions. And next time you come across a question with the same cookie cutter pattern, you're just going to have this toolkit. Okay, I remember that every time I see an argument that involves like scientific data, like these experimenters tested this drug on this group of people versus a placebo on some other group of people. Now, every single time I see any argument similar to that, I'm going to remember, okay, what are the potential flaws? What if I don't have a control group? What if there's bias? What if there's a bad sample size? What are the necessary assumptions? I have to assume that I had a representative sample or that the measurement I used was actually accurate. I just remember for whatever LR question type we're doing, at least I'm looking for those repetitive patterns, and that has helped a lot. That's what I try to structure my classes around.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
This test really is all about pattern recognition, and we kind of break it up into the broadest categories that we can, which is like question type. But then within that, like starting to recognize those smaller patterns, those smaller frameworks is like how you get to the next level. And I think people get a lot of that from your classes, from everything I've seen and from what you're saying. But yeah. You also have like a science background. I mean, just thought of that which you don't need. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
You definitely don't need to have that.
Well, you don't need, as evidenced by Bailey and I, who do not have that whatsoever.
Yeah, some of my students know that in my other life outside of 7 Sage, I work in a neuroscience lab doing like neurology experiments. Specifically, my lab studies like epilepsy and autism disorders. It makes it a little more interesting, like what Bailey was talking about when I read a science passage. It feels a little bit more tea, like I'm a little more fascinated. As opposed to some people who study for the LSAT and they have like a humanities background, so they find the art and humanities passages super interesting.
I don't know.
I never took any humanities classes in college, so to me they're just
Really interesting.
Yeah, I tried to make it feel tea because I'm like, okay, here's something I know nothing about, so I should try to find it interesting. But yeah, I guess my background just makes me more fascinated in some of the more niche passages or question types that some people are like not fascinated with when they first see them.
That's cool. That definitely helps. Yeah, I'm the opposite for sure. Definitely did not. Also, why did that surprise me so much that you've never taken a humanities class? I guess I assumed that everybody, this is my bias, I assume everybody had a liberal arts education. So that's not like even, you don't have to do general education classes. Like you didn't have to.
Well, I had to take math. It's a fun hack when you're like a band geek or you're like in some kind of extracurricular. It counts as a lot of your general education.
Oh,
so
that makes sense.
being in like jazz ensemble and choir in my community college, my little old college, it really let me swing past all these extra classes. But I did take a philosophy class at one point. That was pretty existential for me. I think that may be the
that's dipping into the humanities territory.
Where did you graduate? You went to UCLA?
I went to UCLA, yeah.
Yeah.
I transferred from a community college to UCLA.
Right. I was trying to remember which UC you went to and then that's so cool. Well, so you were, but that's crazy though. I could not have had a more different undergraduate experience.
Right, true. Yours is like literally opposite. Yeah.
Could not be more different. But I think the point is that like, something that you can learn from that is that, I mean, it's not like pre-med. It's not like some of these other more specialized career paths. Like being a lawyer is specialized, but like you do not need to major in a certain thing to do this.
No,
as evidenced by the three of us here.
That's the best part because the students who attend my classes, and that's one of the biggest things I've gained from class is I have like my niche perspective of how I solve problems, what things I find interesting, etc. Clearly not the same as you guys. But then I have all these students that come to my classes that have such a range of backgrounds. Like there were students that were pre-med. There were students that have always been pre-law. I have students that are already working in law firms. I have nurses who are like joining into my class, and in the background you hear like the machines in the ER beeping. And I'm like, whoa, I have all these different people give such different niche knowledge. I learn something new in class literally every single day. Every class I go to, I learn something from one of the students, and it's super fun.
Yeah, I remember having a nurse in my class where there was like, it was a heart rate monitor beeping.
We might be thinking of the same one. Yeah.
Right. I've actually had the same experience.
Yeah, but I'm just like, I'm like, how dramatic would it be if in the middle of class it just like beep?
Oh my God, no.
They're just
that's so bad.
I'd be like, all right, we can call it someone else.
You can totally pass it off to somebody else. That's wild.
Totally.
We'll come back to you.
Popcorn it over. Yeah. I don't know, Bailey, what do you find about like students from different backgrounds and like what they bring to the process?
Yeah, no, I always think it's so cool. I mean, first of all, because it just helps me with the perspective shift of like, I really did struggle, especially during my studying for RC, to just even like pay attention to the passages and not like engage with the passages enough to understand them well enough to prepare for the questions. And so one of the biggest things that I've realized is like, it's really just a perspective shift. This passage about the most boring thing in the world can be about the most interesting thing in the world if you think that it is. And if you're not convinced that anybody, in the whole world would ever think that this passage is actually interesting, come to the classes. We got somebody at least. I also find something that's interesting. Like I love when people in the classes send a little article that connects to whatever we're talking about. Like I have this one student who's always sending either these Wikipedia articles or like, some fancy random source about like a esoteric topic that is slightly relevant to what we're talking about. And I'm like, this is fun. Like we're all nerds here. And it's cool to be able to see that people kind of have random background on this, or at least can make it more interesting.
Yeah, or like when they send pictures too. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like, sometimes they send pictures. Like, we'll be reading a passage about, like, a platypus that happened, like, 2 days ago. And I was literally thinking, in my mind, I said something like, I wonder what this thing looks like. Then, like, 10 people sent a picture of this specific platypus. Yeah, it was shockingly cute. I loved it.
Yeah. There's the one passage that I think about that's a comparative passage about, like, the makeup of, like, what is it? Like the oil? It's the oil drilling. It's like the oil sludge.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yep, that one's so boring.
Where it is so boring. And yet, like every time I read it, I'm like, this has to be the most boring thing any of you have ever read. And there's always someone, I don't know if they're just being a contrarian or not, but they're like, no, I'm actually kind of interested in it. I'm like, it's just telling you the ingredients of this like synthetic compound that like gets injected. I don't even remember.
Yes.
It's,
No, I remember that.
Like,
barite. Barite is it's the largest ingredient by weight or something.
Oh, and it's also
It's
also used in X-rays or something. They talk about in CAT scans. That's one of the questions.
I remember that because one of the inference questions.
There's an inference you have to make.
It's
that you can consume
humans.
it.
How do we all know this? That's funny.
I'll never forget that fact in my life.
Yeah, but anyways, there's something for everyone on this test. I guess. But also, it's just cool. You really do recognize in that process of people being like, no, I actually am interested in this, and I'm interested in that. Sometimes it's just sort of like, that's insane. It couldn't be me.
It's just like, oh, that's good comic relief for me.
Right, but also it's nice because it's like, oh yeah, you can have any background and be here. Right. So. It's cool. And if you're sitting at home, I think everyone, if you've just started this process, or if you're thinking about dipping your toes into the LSAT, and maybe you're like have imposter syndrome, like everyone everywhere about everything, to a certain extent, I think, but especially for this process, everyone feels that way.
Even if they come from whatever background impresses you, or whatever it is.
Right. Everyone's like, should I be doing this? Like, and the answer is like, yes, like you can and should, no matter what. I mean, I don't know you, but like you can, you should, if you want to, you
yes,
should.
With a caveat. Yeah.
Probably, no. If you're considering this, if you're listening to this podcast,
no, I agree. You set your mind to it, you do it. Yeah.
You do it. And we're here to help. If you gravitate towards that more scientific mindset, there's Nicole for you teaching,
platypus biology. Yeah.
And if you're like, that's crazy, I couldn't, I need to make this into something more palatable, then Bailey can help you turn it into gossip.
I was like, where are you going with this? Hopefully you connect it back to gossip hour. That's
to gossip hour. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah. How do you think like live classes, having tutored and having taught and studied yourself, Nicole, like where do live classes fit into, like you weren't a live class student when you studied for this, but now teaching live classes, how do you think like live classes best fit into someone's study routine, study plan?
I think live classes are really cool because when you're on your own time, you can always make a drill, right? You can always come up, like go into the drill section of 7th Stage, make yourself like a couple flaw questions and work through those yourself. The benefit of live class, I feel like, I don't know about every instructor, but I feel like we really carefully cherry pick questions to kind of come across a lesson that we have planned for that day. So you get to practice, like I was talking about, like a pattern of logic that we tend to see, or some like cookie cutter argument. It's also really cool hearing a bunch of different voices, like we've been talking about, give different perspectives, because at baseline you have the curriculum, you have JY's video explanations, you have the written explanations on the drills, but it's also nice when you have your own peers explaining something to you and you hear it from a different voice. So it's definitely a good way to supplement your daily, or however often you're doing just a drill, a timed drill of a certain type of question or something. It's cool to go in and have like a kind of community aspect, like you guys are working all together, or when we have fun classes that are like a game show style, it gives you like a competitive motivation edge. It's just another way to make studying feel more fun, honestly, at the end of the day. It gives you motivation to want to be there and keep learning.
Yeah. What do you think, Bailey?
Yeah, I'm so jealous of the people that get to go to live classes now. And I'm not just saying that. That probably sounds like I'm such a biased source, but gosh, it would have made studying so much more fun. And I also think that I would have really loved, and I would I would recommend this to any student that's going now, is you just get to get more perspectives. Like if the way that, a certain explanation video or something on the core curriculum or something from another website is phrased to you just doesn't fully click in your brain, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to understand the LSAT. It just maybe means that your brain works a little bit different. And that's so normal. I think we talk about this a lot on the podcast. Hopefully I've driven that point home well enough, where it's like, just because you think in a different way doesn't mean that this test isn't for you. We just got to figure out what works for you. That's exactly what live class is for. We got plenty of different instructors who all think about this test in a totally different way. They teach it in a different way. And so you're just able to get new perspectives, figure out what's going to work for you.
And the thing is, like, I mean, I think it's instructive also, like, not everyone can take live class, wants to take live class. It's not something that you have to do.
I get that.
But it
exactly.
it is valuable to think about what are the things it provides and looking for those things in whatever way you can. Finding community is a really valuable thing for a lot of people. And so like figure that out. It's something that you definitely can find in live classrooms, and but it's also something that you can find on message boards or wherever else you need to. But it's important, you know. It can be a very lonely process, and so finding community is something we talk about a lot, and something that I've been struck by having taught here for several years. Just like how much of a game changer it is for people. How not only does it make them just sort of like better in the ways you'd maybe expect it to, like bouncing ideas off of one another, like learning different ways of approaching questions, but also just like having people in it with you, making friends so that you're not so alone, just like makes the process better, makes you better as a student, allows you to study for longer without being like, I got to do something else, you know?
Right. Yes.
I've seen many a friendship blossom in those chats in live class, and
Me too.
afterwards they're always talking to each other after, they're exchanging their information and stuff. That's going to be your study partner that's going to help you motivate yourself moving forward. So I think it's really fun that it gives you an opportunity to meet like-minded people, you know, other people that are just working hard and here to grind on this exam. Yeah.
I think a testament to 7-Stage also is just like how many 7-Stage students end up working here. How many people who work here were 7-Stage students. And so like whether you're in tutoring or live class or, you know, just interacting with people on forums or whatever, the people who work here all studied here, which is, I can't think of a better, not all, there's some people who didn't, but a lot of people did, right? Which is, so you're getting a perspective. It's nice to get a perspective from someone who like obviously went through the same process in that they took the LSAT, but went through like the exact same process in that they're using similar testing materials, maybe have tried, just can like talk to you about it on a level that they're very familiar with what you're going through. I don't know. True. No question.
True. No questions.
Yeah.
Can't argue. It must be true.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we empathize with them too, because sometimes in class, like I'll have a specific question or a specific passage on the board, and in the chat, everyone's like, oh my God, I hate this passage. Like, this is the worst passage, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm always like, I feel you guys. I was in your shoes a few months ago, and I got a bunch of questions in this exact passage wrong too. But here we are turning it around. So I know exactly how you guys feel.
And now you're a star. People love you, Nicole. Like, the students rave about you.
Don't hype me up too much, guys. It's going to get to my head. No, I'm just kidding.
It's true.
I'm just kidding.
It should.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. What else? We've got a little bit of maybe a few minutes. Any parting thoughts? Any bits of wisdom? Bailey, anything? Oh, okay. So
wisdom. Don't ask me for wisdom.
So we had New Year's. What we were not New Year's. We had Thanksgiving. What you're thankful for? Okay,
you're doing like a seasonal
Christmas,
thing.
Hanukkah coming up. Like, what sort of a gift would you give to yourself or no?
Do you want to know the literal gifts I'm giving myself?
No. Oh. What are the gifts you would give a student? With the gift, what I'm trying to think of a creative framework. If you could gift something to a student, what would you gift?
Is this supposed to be like philosophical or like an actual object?
What do you mean? I'm just gifting them a 180.
No, it's like a bit of perspective. It's like a tidbit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a 180. Okay, podcast over. We're gifting you a 180.
Mic drop, done.
Wish granted. Alex, why don't you start us off?
Yeah.
I'm the guy who asks the questions around here. What would I give? I would give a bit of perspective. I would give. Well, I feel like we've talked about this a lot the past few episodes, but like just speeding up the process of not trying to fight the LSAT. That's a gift that I would give someone because it takes time. It took time for me. But like the gift of just sort of like, instead of saying, I don't agree with this, it's wrong. The gift of getting to the point where you're like, either it's right or let me just set aside my ideas about whether it's wrong or right and try to learn the rules that it operates under, you know?
Yes.
That's the gift I would give. Okay, now do we see the sorts of gifts that we can give? That we can put under the tree?
I'm actually still kind of confused. So can I gift a 179?
No, you can't gift a score. You have to gift a tool you can't. Okay, last week we talked about.
I have one.
Okay,
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Wait, I fear that I might have said this on the podcast before, but I'm going to say it anyways.
We've said
my best
everything.
advice.
It's like, yeah.
We've said everything already. We just say it in different ways over and over and over.
Yeah.
What I would give is similar to what you're saying in terms of the stubbornness. Like, I wish I could just shed all of my stubbornness right away. But I think the thing that I was just really being held back by was this idea that I needed to do everything quickly, like on the macro level, on the micro level, in order to do this test well. It's such a timed test. I got to study for it all timed. And so my gift is slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Yeah. Move slowly in order to speed up. Feels
I'm mad
so
because that's exactly what I was thinking in my mind was slow, smooth.
Okay,
I was literally
good thing
that
I said that before you. So
now
what are you going to say now?
Well, I'm going to piggyback off everybody else. And I'm going to say that the gift I would give students is to, I guess I'll take it more on a micro level. Like, a lot of students ask me, like, how do I get faster at reading passages? How do I get faster at figuring out the main point? How do I get faster? How do I tomorrow, Nicole, do a 5-star passage in under 7 minutes? And my answer always is you just have to keep practicing. At the end of the day, nobody, not me, not Alex, not Bailey, none of us are able to overnight just do a 5-star passage instantly in target time.
But
right?
which of us would be most likely to? Maybe we can answer that. No, I'm kidding.
Maybe Bailey, because she's T with reading.
No, that was so bad at RC, you guys. It was insane.
But yeah, I would just say remind yourself everything comes with time. Like, you can't fight time. At the end of the day, what you got to do is keep practicing, keep grinding, and over time you're going to see improvements. It's even though it doesn't feel instantaneous to you, it's going to feel, gradual. And one day you're going to turn around and be like, oh my God, I just did that whole passage in target time and I got through everything. Oof. How did I get here? Well, it was all the practice.
Oof. Yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
Mic drop. That's a good one.
I mean, I agree. And kind of like, that shift in perspective, being okay with things being a little bit more incremental, just going to make this a lot easier, because otherwise you're comparing yourself to progress that is like that you think you should be making that is frankly nearly impossible. So the more that you can accept that this is a slow, gradual process, the better off you'll be. Those are the gifts that we have given to all of you, whether you accept them or not. This is on you. Maybe you return them.
I have a little feeling that somebody is going to accept my 180 for this next January test.
Okay.
Can you let us know if it works?
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. If you've accepted, if you accepted the 180, you're not returning the 180, then let us know. But speaking of, we'd love to feature students on the podcast. We are going to be shifting to tentatively, hopefully, weekly releases as a podcast in both a video and audio format. And we want to feature your stories. So podcast@sevensage.com. Write me. I mean, cat's out of the bag. I'm the one who reads it.
Are you going to answer?
I don't know, but write me. I'll answer. But yeah, if you want to be featured, let us know where you started, where you ended up, what helped you along the way, and if you have ideas for the podcast or things you want to hear, please let us know. So yeah, I think that's about it. Maybe next week we'll do New Year's resolutions. We'll do LSAT New Year's resolutions.
Are they also
so I have to come up with tidbits? A resolution?
Why is this so confusing? Yeah, New Year's resolutions. It's the same thing, just repackaged, okay? It's the same thing, whatever you're thankful for, the gift you're giving, the resolution you're making. It's all just different packaging for, a bit of advice for the LSAT.
And it's always a 180. So we're just going to rewrap that again next
Your resolution is a 180. No, that would be a horrible resolution. I think we can agree.
Yeah.
True. Oh my God, no. That would be so bad for my own mentals. That would be awful.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Perfect.
Anything else? We've got a new theme song, so we'll listen to that.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear it.
Playing us
Cue
out.
the song.
Nicole, thank you so much for being here. If you like what Nicole has to say, find her in live class, request her as a tutor.
Write me, I'll answer.
Write her. Yeah. She'll answer.
True. Maybe.
But yeah, no, this was a pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a fantastic experience.
Good. 34 minutes of fame coming to an end.
Oh man, and now it's over. No more favorite.
It's over.
That's good.
It's over. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
You can find me on Spotify, guys. Find my links on Spotify.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Bye.
Oh.
All right. Bye.